Welcome, everyone. Tonight, we're going deep into some stories that, well, they sit right on the edge of what we think is real. We have accounts tonight that might make you pause, maybe listen a bit closer to the quiet spots in your house. We're talking about encounters with the truly inexplicable things people faced and barely walked away from. Prepare yourselves.
Absolutely. These stories are fascinating, not just for the events themselves, but for how they affect people, how they change lives and perceptions. We're looking at everything from family histories, haunted by strange happenings, to direct, terrifying confrontations.
Okay, let's jump right in. Our first one takes us to a family farm up in Michigan, a place with a lot of history, apparently, and something else, too. This whole thing starts way back the 1930s. The narrator's great-grandpa had a cousin helping out on the farm. One night, early fall, the cousin goes coon hunting, doesn't come back. Next morning, his truck's still there. The great-grandpa gets worried, starts calling for him near the back pasture, and he hears this voice answer. But it's strange. Familiar, but wrong. Like a growl trying to sound like his cousin.
That mimicry aspect is deeply unsettling. It suggests something intelligent, but malevolent, perhaps?
He called out again. And this time, it was definitely not human, not his cousin anyway. He's terrified, just ran. Later, a search party went out. All they found was the cousin's gun loaded, never fired, and his hat. It had this brown liquid spattering on it. The cousin himself. Vanished, never seen again. What a way to start life on that farm.
It really sets a tone, doesn't it? An unresolved disappearance like that, tied to such a bizarre auditory event. It can almost imprint itself onto the land. People talk about place memory, and this would feel like a prime example. It creates this underlying dread that can last generations.
And it seems like it did. Fast forward to the 1950s, deer season. The great-grandpa is out hunting again, this time with his son, the narrator's grandpa, who is only maybe 11 or 12, then some great-uncles, and a local Native American hunter named Joe, apparently very skilled. They wound a deer. Joe and the young grandpa track it into this really dense, overgrown part of the farm. They find this small clearing, and the deer is there, but it's, the account says shredded almost beyond recognition, blood everywhere, like something just tore it apart violently.
A level of violence beyond typical predators, perhaps.
Seems like it. Joe, the experienced hunter, immediately shoves the boy behind him, gets his gun ready, he looks around, checks the ground. The grandpa remembers seeing tracks, but they were unlike anything he had ever seen before or since. Then Joe just freezes, swears under his breath. The look on his face, the grandpa said, was pure terror. He grabs the boy and practically drags him out of there, whispering that something was stalking them, right beside them in the brush, but they couldn't see it.
That invisible presence paired with the visceral evidence.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Once they were clear, Joe point blank told the great-grandpa, sell this land, get rid of it, and he swore he would never, ever set foot on it again. And he never explained why. Not really. Years later, Joe's dying of cancer. His very last words to the grandpa were, "We were lucky, Gene. We were lucky to have made it back that day." The grandpa never went back to that part of the farm, ever.
Wow. The refusal to speak about it, holding on to that terror until death, that signifies a truly traumatic, deeply abnormal experience. It wasn't just a bear or a wolf. It was something that defied his understanding of the natural world so completely it couldn't be spoken of. That's significant.
It really is. The unknown nature of it seems key. Okay, third generation. Late 1970s, the narrator's father, described as a very honest, no-nonsense kind of guy. He's out with a friend Mark, having a campfire in the South Meadow, totally sober. They start hearing these crashing sounds from the woods nearby, like something big, maybe bear-sized, just plowing through the undergrowth. They grab a flashlight, go check it out cautiously, and they see it. Just yellow eyes and a mouthful of teeth. The father said the snout was very wolf-like, but much, much bigger.
Bigger than a bear, even. Or just wolf-like, but oversized.
The description implies oversized wolf features. They didn't stick around to measure it. They were scared witless, just bolted for their truck. As they got close, this thing let out a howl. He described it as unearthly. So haunting and wrong, it apparently still echoes in his memory today. And his friend Mark backed up the story completely, called it the scariest thing he's ever been through.
2 witnesses, consistent details, the distinct auditory element. It strengthens the report significantly. And that description, large, wolf-like, terrifying howl it does echo certain cryptid accounts like the dogman sightings reported in Michigan and surrounding areas. It fits a pattern, unsettlingly so.
Right. Now, the narrator telling these stories, they admitted they grew up pretty skeptical about all this family lore, thought maybe they were just, spooky campfire tales. Until about a year and a half ago, they were on the farm at night with their best friend near the barn by their cousin's house. Suddenly, they both get this intense feeling of unease, like something very wrong was about to happen. Then, the cousins' dogs, 3 German Shepherds, big dogs, in a pen about 100 feet away, they just went berserk. But it wasn't angry barking, it was sheer terror. Pure fear.
Animals reacting with fear rather than aggression is often noted in paranormal accounts.
Exactly. And over the barking, they could hear something else. Sounds like something was hitting the dog pen fence hard, trying to beat the fence down, trying to force its way in or out. The narrator looks at their friend, and at that moment, they both hear this sound. The narrator struggles to describe it, just calls it the scariest fucking sound I have ever heard.
Yeah.
The herald of death. They didn't wait. Jumped in their car, floored it, threw gravel getting out of there, the cousins. Slept right through it. They had a white noise machine on. But here's the kicker. They lost one of the dogs that night, and the pen was so damaged they had to rebuild it.
A physical consequence.
Yeah.
Loss of life.
Authorities apparently blamed coyotes,
Right.
but the narrator is adamant. The violence, the sounds, the dog's reaction, it was beyond anything that even a pack of coyotes would be capable of. They're convinced it was connected to all the other stories, something dark on that land.
The personal experience, especially one that intense and corroborated by the dog's reaction and the aftermath, it's often the catalyst that shifts someone from skepticism to belief. The coyote explanation might seem plausible on paper, but when you factor in the sheer terror described, the specific sounds, and the history, it feels insufficient to the witness.
4 generations, 4 terrifying encounters, same piece of land. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What is on that Michigan farm?
Okay, shifting gears a bit now. From inherited land curses, let's talk about maybe inviting trouble in yourself. Our next story involves a Ouija board. So this involves a young woman, kind of goth, initially skeptical about this stuff. She gets pressured into a sleepover with some new friends, and guess what they pull out? A Ouija board. Right away, it's apparently crazy active. They ask if anyone's there. It spells out Hector. Hector. One girl, Jess, totally freaks out. Says Hector was her imaginary friend when she was 5 years old. Weird coincidence, maybe. Could be suggestion or shared subconscious knowledge among friends, potentially.
Maybe, but then they ask if anyone else is there. The board spells Marie, Marie. Another girl, Zoe, just bursts into tears. Her grandmother, named Marie, had died just 3 months before, and the others, they had no way of knowing that, none at all. Zoe stops playing immediately, and the spot where she'd been sitting reportedly becomes ice cold. Then they say the planchette starts moving by itself, nobody touching it, just sliding around the board.
That element autonomous movement is harder to explain away with just the ideomotor effect.
Definitely creeped them out. They put the board away. But later that night, Jess's little brother, who's 5, starts talking about his imaginary friend. Guess his name? Hector. And he describes him exactly the same way Jess remembered hers from childhood. Same details, same backstory. The mom overhears the paranormal talk, gets worried, and basically kicks everyone out, sends them all home.
That's layered. You have the potentially explainable Hector memory trigger, but then the highly specific unknown information about Marie, the cold spot, the reported autonomous movement, and finally, the corroboration from the completely separate 5-year-old about Hector. It challenges simple explanations. It taps into grief, childhood memory, and produces information seemingly outside the participant's conscious knowledge. It's potent stuff.
It really is. Those specific, unknowable details are what get under your skin. Okay, next one. Venezuela, back in the early 60s. Imagine being a little kid, maybe 8 or 9 years old. It's late at night, you're listening to the radio in your tropical home. The narrator's mom, when she was that age, went to close the balcony window. And she sees something, huddled behind a big sofa on the balcony, just watching her. She said it was small, a little smaller than her, had very large almond-shaped black eyes, grayish leather skin, and arms that seemed too long for its body. It moved like a gorilla.
The description is quite specific. Large black eyes, gray skin. Common elements in certain types of entity reports.
She screamed, obviously. The creature apparently panicked, grabbed her arm, and tried to pull her out onto the balcony. Luckily, her grandparents heard the scream, rushed in, and the creature let go and escaped over the balcony railing. Years later, the narrator heard this story and kind of dismissed it. You know, childhood nightmare, maybe. But then his grandmother, who he described as a very serious person, overheard him, and she confirmed the whole thing, gave an almost perfect description that matched her granddaughter's account, and said after that night, they never left balcony windows open again.
That independent confirmation, especially from a respected family member decades later, adds significant weight. It moves the needle from potential childhood fantasy towards a shared, anomalous experience. The consistency in description over time is key.
Definitely adds credibility. Okay, sometimes these things don't try to grab you, they just watch. This narrator grew up in a house that just always felt occupied, like you're not alone. They mention a playful spirit, maybe a little boy who'd mess with VCRs, run in the halls. But there was something else too. They called it the Watcher. A tall, shadowy figure, maybe 6'3", never interacted directly, just seen, out of the corner of your eye mostly. Didn't feel overtly harmful, but it created this constant, uneasy feeling.
Shadow figures are a very common report, often associated with peripheral vision, liminal spaces, or states like sleep paralysis. But the consistency and specific description here are interesting.
Right. So the narrator moves out when they're 17, spends one last night alone in the totally empty house. They wake up suddenly, around 3:30 a.m., and they see it. Not in the corner of their eye this time, a shadowy pair of legs standing right beside the mattress on the floor. But instead of fear, this time they felt this strange calm, no unease at all. As they looked up, the figure just seemed to melt with the darkness and disappear. Later, when visiting the house after it was completely empty, they were hit with this sudden, overwhelming wave of sadness and loneliness, and they had this strong feeling that those weren't just their emotions, but maybe the watchers too, feeling alone after being there so long.
That's the fascinating shift. From unease to calm, and then this perceived empathic connection, attributing loneliness to the entity. It complicates the typical scary shadow figure trope. It suggests a perceived relationship, however passive, and raises questions about the nature of such phenomena. Are they just perceived, or do they have some form of consciousness, even emotion?
It adds a really strange, poignant layer to it. Okay, prepare yourself for this next one. It involves a horse owner and something truly bizarre. She starts out as a non-believer, boards her horse at an old barn, surrounded by woods, standard stuff. One evening, her horse, described as dead broke, calm, well-mannered, suddenly starts snorting, backing up, terrified. She looks up to see what spooked it and sees this white, gray creature crawling out of the woods towards us. The description she gives is chillingly detailed. Very small round head, eyes like just pits, tiny mouth, very long and thin fingers, a pronounced rib cage, long lanky legs, and it moved with very jerky motions.
That physical description is quite unique and unsettling.
Yep.
The pit-like eyes, the jerky movement.
Her calm horse absolutely bolts, just loses it, refuses to go back near that arena afterwards, but it doesn't stop there. Over the summer, she keeps seeing it, sometimes just peeking, almost dancing near the gate. A month later, she's riding late, full moon, and sees it again. This time, it's running full speed by my side, but on the other side of the fence line, keeping pace with her.
The behavior is escalating, from emergence to peeking to actively pacing her.
Yeah, and even after she moves her horse to a new barn, supposedly safer with better lighting, the sightings continue. She starts seeing maybe a second one occasionally. And once, she saw a very, very large version of the same creature. Then comes the climax. Last November, she's house-sitting back at the original barn. It's 2 a.m., she's out in the back pasture, and she sees 3 of the creatures emerge from the woods. One comes near the water trough where she is. The other 2 move along the tree line. Weirdest part. The horses in the pasture just kept munching hay, totally silent, seemingly unaware.
That indifference from the horses in that instance is perplexing, especially given the initial extreme reaction.
Right. And just a few weeks before she shared the story, she says one was outside her bedroom window, tapping and making a strange, faint shrieking sound.
This whole sequence is remarkable. The initial skepticism overcome by repeated escalating encounters, the detailed consistent description, multiple entities, size variations, direct interaction attempts at her home. It's a powerful narrative that strongly persists easy explanations like misidentification. The pattern suggests something persistent, perhaps territorial, and increasingly bold.
Incredibly disturbing. Okay, one last story for tonight, back in the woods again. 2 college friends head out looking for a party deep in some woods. They take a wrong turn onto this tiny, barely there trail, get lost. They call a friend, trying to get directions. While on the phone, they hear this weird sound, followed by a whistle, like an old train whistle, one said, or Thomas the Train. They shine their flashlights towards the sound, and they see a deer, standing upright on its hind legs, leaning against a tree with one foreleg, just looking at them. One of them said it was the most unsettling thing they'd ever witnessed.
A deer on its hind legs is unusual, but possible briefly. Leaning like that, though. And the sounds.
It gets weirder. One friend panicked and ran. The other hesitated, then followed. As they're running, they hear another whistle. They look back. There's another deer also looking at them. But this one starts walking towards them on its hind legs. Not like a person walks, though. The description was like a dog walks on its hind legs. Awkward, unnatural. It then steps behind a tree, so just its head and neck are poking out, still watching them.
Okay, that's extremely bizarre behavior for a deer, walking on hind legs like that, the coordinated watching.
They were absolutely terrified, convinced they were about to be attacked by whatever this was. They hear more rustling in the bushes nearby, but instead of monster deer, out walks this huge black dog, like Newfoundland-sized, but with short lab-like hair. The dog walks right up to the scared students. Then it turns towards the deer, which had started making this weird coughing sound now, and just snarls. Silently, no noise, just bares its teeth. Then it barks, but at the girls like it's hurting them. Just then, a man turned out to be a professor bursts out of the bushes, calling for his dog, Baron. He sees how shaken the students are and drives them home.
Baron the dog is the fascinating element here. Its immediate, silent, aggressive posture towards the deer suggests it recognized something profoundly wrong. Animals often react strongly to things perceived as unnatural threats. The dog didn't just ignore the deer, it confronted it, albeit silently, then seemed to protect the humans. It's almost like the dog knew this wasn't normal deer behavior, a chilling encounter where salvation came from an unexpected canine guardian.
Absolutely. These stories, they're all so different, yet share that core of utter inexplicability. They definitely leave you wondering. So from phantom growls echoing across generations on a Michigan farm, to terrifying Ouija board messages, strange creatures watching from balconies and woods, and deer behaving in ways they absolutely shouldn't. Yeah, we've covered some truly chilling ground tonight. These aren't just tales for entertainment. For the people involved, these were real, horrifying moments that changed how they see the world.
Exactly. The sheer range of experiences, some deeply personal and psychological, others involving multiple witnesses, and even physical evidence or animal reactions, it really highlights how much we maybe don't know. These accounts challenge our neat categories and force us to acknowledge experiences that just don't fit easily into conventional understanding.
We'll leave you with those thoughts to mull over. What do you think was really happening on that farm? Or in those woods? Do you have stories like these? We find this stuff endlessly fascinating. If these accounts send a shiver down your spine, you're in the right place. For more dives into the horrifying and the unexplained, definitely check out the Horror Docx channel. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our future explorations into the dark. Until next time, stay aware, stay safe, and maybe, keep a light on.